And today, Bob, Jason, and I are going to talk a little bit about what's new and innovative within our companies that is coming up in the next year or so. And Jason seemed pretty excited about that topic, so why don't you kick it off?
AI. And I know it's the hot topic. Everybody loves talking about AI, but some of the uses that we never thought of until very recently are coming to fruition. I'll give you just one example. We use a software called SiteForm for much more than pre-task planning. We use it for orientation. We use it for daily reporting, training for subs, onboarding, all that stuff. But really the main focus of SiteForm for us is pre-task planning, daily huddles and pre-task planning. So how can we take what a company does for a living, what their risks are, and use AI to generate, quite honestly, a brief overview of what the risks on this particular project are. And we're starting to have some success with trade partners using AI to their advantage. So there is an AI app that's being tested right now with SiteForm, and the outputs, I have to say, are phenomenal. Meaning, here's the history of what we do or what we've done within this platform. Meaning we've entered all these pre-task plans. We have our safety plan in there. The system has read it. It knows what our policies are. And then with a brief description of what that trade partner is doing that day. And I'll give you an example. We're drywalling on the 4th floor of this building, and we're next to an atrium. The atrium's open down 4 stories. Please give me a synopsis of what I should talk about with my crews. And the synopsis is, quite frankly, phenomenal. It's got a ton of potential. It really focuses in on what that trade partner is doing that day, and then the future of that looks like, hey, go take a picture of the area that you're working in, and it's going to identify some things that are kind of standard within the industry. So I love the potential to really laser focus the foreman for trade partners in on a particular activity with a crew.
That's really cool. I haven't heard about that before. What I have heard about is on the other side of it. So using AI, and there's a company out there, I'm not going to drop their name because I don't even know if they're still in existence, but they've created the use of AI to understand and rate the engagement of a safety meeting or a daily huddle. So you would record audio, video if you can, and somehow, some way, this AI engine kind of looks at, the level of engagement and gives it a score. And they've got a little bit of a social media style where the top performing scores of that day get notified, get recognized company wide, and people can drop in, take a look at the recording and see, well, why was Bob so engaging today? And again, I don't want to say the name of the company because I don't know if they're still in existence. And it's a little
they're
bit.
Still out. Yeah, they're still out.
Oh,
there.
they are?
Yeah.
So FactorLab?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So super cool product. You couple that with what you're saying, and you've got this generated AI plan that maybe is communicated by the crew leader, and it's using a product like the FactorLab to see, well, are they following it? Because at the end of the day, you can write whatever you want, but if people don't truly understand what's going on or don't have the ability to ask questions or create their own concerns or raise their own concerns, then how good is that plan that was generated? So you put those two together. I mean, that's
phenomenal.
That would be amazing,
right?
Yeah. Good luck. Keep me posted.
Let's go.
That's cool.
And SiteForm is the platform for the CARE Construction Safety Program, which the three of us are using. Universal orientation.
So let's pause right there for a second, Bob. Can you explain that a little bit more to the viewership out there, what the CARE program is?
So we're going back in time now to 2017. It was St. Patrick's Day, and Jason thought we should all get together as a peer group, CMs in the Boston market, and come up with some way to communicate to our shared resource in a singular way, right? And the shared resource we have is the men and women that build, in this case, Boston and Cambridge, for example. It was a novel concept, 2017. It wasn't really until 2022 with Jason's persistence coming out of COVID, that we got back together again at the AGC of Mass, and we really committed to really creating this amazing vehicle to communicate to the workforce I think in a really unique and empowering and informative way, because ultimately I kind of have said over the years that the worker was like a ball in a pinball machine. They were going from bumper to bumper, and the bumper is a CM, right? Going from bumper to bumper to bumper, and let's call that 11 times a year, because there's been some history that's been undertaken through the Harvard School of Public Health many years ago, 2011 or so, that indicated that the average 40% of the workforce in the Boston market was going to as many as 11 jobs a year. And what message are they really receiving, right? So it really formed the basis of a universal orientation. And it gets much deeper than that, but go to Care Construction Safety on the web there, and you'll see a website that introduces you to even more about the program.
Yeah, I think you were talking about like innovative stuff, and going back to 2017 and really kind of re-engaging through COVID, and then 22 kind of kicking things off pretty strong there. And thanks for that explanation to some folks out there that may not have known about the AGC Care program. I think we all agree it's one of the best things that the construction industry can do to provide the trade partners out there this meaningful universal safety orientation where we all agree to kind of the minimum standards. It's not about competition. It's not about me having a better program than you guys. It's about what's in it for the betterment of the industry to reduce serious incidents and fatalities completely. And if the pinball reference is great, because if we keep having our own unique plans, then how are people keeping up with that? And not only like the 11 jobs and the different CMs, but it would be interesting to know how many different employers a tradesperson has throughout a given year. Oftentimes it's one, but even on one of your Demio jobs, you can have a trade person work for 2, 3, 4 different employers on that unique site.
Take a labor steward.
There you go.
Carpenter steward,
Sure.
right? Yeah, perfect example.
So if we at maybe like a leadership level from a GC perspective, CM perspective, at least subscribe to this minimum safety standards and communicate that out, which the big part of the care program is empowerment. So the individual tradesperson knows whichever job they go to, there should be minimum standards that they have, and they should feel good being on that site. So I think that's a game changer. I don't think we have enough people subscribed to the program yet. We're looking for more people to join us. So I'm talking to everybody out there that hasn't signed off on this program yet. It's a game changer in the industry. We've been advocating for this program across the country. It is in use in many states across the country, but we're only touching a small percentage of the workforce as a whole. And we got this idea, Jason, back in 2017 about kind of coming together for the betterment of the trades. We learned through that process that the automobile industry in Michigan has a similar process driven by the ownership, the 3 major leaders out there. And this is somewhat in the middle. It's the GCs, CMs trying to drive something with the use of AGC of Mass and their leverage. But we need more people to subscribe to that.
Yeah, I think if you look at what Lee Kennedy's doing with AI and the data they have, there's this endless potential of really supporting the worker at the point of work. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, especially with AI, and using some common platforms and et cetera.
Yeah. There are 2 concepts in here that I'd like to see take a very strong hold in this industry. The one you talked about, Sean, is us shifting our mindset to focusing on making our trade partners' lives easier. We don't do it. In fact, if anything in this industry, we we make our trade partners' lives harder by not coming together as a group of general contractors or owners. And think about it. We had another episode recently with procurement and pre-qualification. We're all using a different system, and we all share the same trade partner pool. They're all our partners. We share them. They have to do that same process slightly differently across 10, 20 different general contractors that they work with. The more that we can unify some basic semblance of whatever it is that we do, from procurement to safety to quality, the more that we can come together as an industry. The concept is the easier the subs' lives will be, the better their lives will be, hands down, as opposed to that pinball of going from GC to GC and having to learn or conduct themselves in a different way than they did 2 months ago on another GC's job.
And at the end of the day, like these unique practices that each of the CMs have, or even at some level ownership has, project ownership has, it consumes capacity of the sub. So they lose the ability to actually be at the point of work and help the workers achieve the outcomes that we want, right? Because they're busy entering data into this unique system for this CM, or a unique system for that CM, or the owner, right? So it makes a lot of sense in so many ways to have platforms that talk to one another.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a balance there, though. When it comes to health and safety and the empowerment of the tradesperson, there's no separation between us and many other firms that are out there. And we are oftentimes competing for the same work. So there is a little bit of a balance there as to how much information should be shared between the three of us. I'm just speaking truthfully here. When it comes to the empowerment and the well-being of the individual tradesperson that we all share, bouncing from your site to mine and back again, there's nothing that we wouldn't do for one another to make their lives better. I know that, right? Completely,
True. Totally agree.
But there's a lot of people that might argue against that. But as it relates to us three and quite a few others, there's no difference there. So but the other side of that is, being a competitor, we do need to kind of keep some of our information separated. We do need to keep what makes sense for our unique firms. We have to do what's right for them with regards to pre-qualification or data sharing. Am I going to give you all of my historical data of losses in the history of time for Shawmut?
No, I would use it against you.
And you would, rightfully so. But I'm just challenging you there that when it comes to the tradesperson, yes, 100% all in. The uniqueness of Shawmut's performance and competitive advantage, there's got to be a little bit of a line drawn.
Where's that line?
I don't know.
Because I'm calling bullshit, Sean.
Sure you are.
I am.
Yeah.
We're doing the same type of construction that you guys are on the majority of the projects that we work on. It's construction. The trades that we hire are the same trades that you hire. They're doing the same exact thing. I haven't seen any technological advance from a Skanska, a Turner, a Hensel Phelps, a Shawmut, a Lee Kennedy, a Damio, none of them that we say, wow, those guys have it going on. I'll agree that there are cultural differences between general contractors, no doubt. But I call BS on the fact that we have not come together as an industry to make our trades' lives easier in a very meaningful way. I think this concept, pushing it further and further, is going to advance the industry. The more that we simplify our programs and make our trade partners' lives easier, the more point of work contact time those trades will have with their subs. There's not much that we do differently. Mm-hmm. There really isn't. It's construction.
I mean, the biggest isn't ultimately, you have this marketing teams, you have pre-construction teams, you got financial teams, you've got purchasing and estimating teams and operations teams. And we all operate in our own unique way based on culture and the clients that we serve, in some cases requires, unique team configurations. But ultimately, it comes down to the way that we interact together. That really is the difference in so many ways, right?
Who's we?
Project teams, at the tip of the spear where work is really occurring. That interaction that occurs in the field often makes the difference between a successful project and a project that maybe left something on the table.
100%.
Yeah. Always.
Yeah. Back to Jason's comments about, kind of coming together. There's two differences right here that we talked about in a previous segment, must have been months or minutes ago, about pre-qualification and procurement. Demio, you have your own tool that you use, right, in the way that you
Yes.
collect your pre-qualification information, and you use Highwire.
Yep.
We use a couple different softwares. So
Correct.
that right there is a difference. And we're asking the subcontractors to do different things for your two firms and mine. And I don't see that ever changing because there has to be competition. It can't just all go to Highwire. It can't just go to all Demio's system.
Well,
right? So there's a
it-
difference there. And
it's
that
true.
takes away from their time, as you said it, to be out supporting the people in the field.
I'll give you the concept a little bit different. We'll use
Okay.
pre-qual, but first I'll back up to the universal orientation. So we have this universal orientation where a tradesperson can go through an orientation once a year and walk onto a Shawmut or a Demio project with a green light for the basic orientation. But either Shawmut or Demio or Lee Kennedy will have a Lee Kennedy specific section of that orientation. We have one. It's about 10 minutes long. It's an add-on. Those are things that are unique to Lee Kennedy, but it's a small add-on. And then at the project level, they'll also go through a project-specific segment of that orientation, 5-10 minutes long, whatever it is. And again, that's specific to that job. The same concept could apply to almost anything. If we had a basic pre-qualification with add-ons that a trade partner could go through where we're sharing that basic information. They're entering it one time. Their life is simple, but they also know that they have to do X and Y for Shawmut and they have to do Z for Lee Kennedy. Just a small add-on. We've now made their lives more simple and more efficient. You can apply that same concept to almost anything that we do in this industry. 90% of the work that we put in place on any construction project is by our trades. When they win, we win. If we can focus just some minimal effort on coming together as an industry to make their lives easier, we all better from it. Without giving away the proprietary
secret
stuff
sauce.
or the secret sauce or that
Yeah.
that cultural difference. At its core, we share, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we share 95% of what we do as companies, general contractors or trade contractors, they're exactly the same. They're identical with some minor differences. That 5%. We're all building.
Yeah. But with
Have I shocked you into silence? That's hard to do. Do you know how it's nearly impossible to do?
a little bit, I just struggle with, I guess it's the tech component to it. Shawmut has to enter in, a pre-qualification system times X a year for different clients in different parts of the country. And that's not going to change. Even within New England, within Massachusetts, we're sharing a lot of the same trade partners. But how they navigate our systems from a pre-qualification perspective throughout the life cycle of the job, the complete life cycle of the job, observations being created. Most people use Procore, but they're not alone, right? There's other software out there. So, it's the deals that individual companies make with these providers.
Yeah.
That's where I get hung up. I don't see that changing. If that's not going to change, and I'm a subcontractor and I'm going to go, bid work for Demio, then I have to get all my information and upload it into Demio's system. Then I say, okay, I'm going to Lee Kennedy now. All right, well, I need to go into Highwire and upload all my information into Highwire. And your two firms aren't really probably going to change on that because that's where you get your information and make informed decisions. As a subcontractor, I have to deal with that.
So how did we solve that for the orientation, though?
Well, we cut through everything and said, this is all about the individual tradesperson. So what is the betterment for them? They need to get a clear and consistent message to understand what's expected of them and what they should expect of us. At the core, that's what we did, and we found a unique software that could integrate with other platforms to deliver that program to everybody.
The basics of that program. Yeah, you guys use HammerTech for pre-task planning.
Yep.
We use SiteForm. Mm-hmm. But somehow there's an integration between the two that allows somebody to go to a Shawmut site, enter the orientation to your chosen platform, and then communicate that back to the rest of us in some very basic way.
It's all about the individual tradesperson that could be, upwards of 11 jobs a year, that the benefit is for them. If you're saying an estimator from a subcontractor.
Let's put that in financial terms right now, right?
Yeah.
So right now we're seeing 22% of the workers are because of the collaboration we have. 22% of the folks are not having to go through that orientation a second or third time, which equates to around $300,000 of money given back to production, where it was normally going to be committed to orientation time.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's significant.
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's because they take the orientation on one site that carries with them for the year, like you said, Jason, so they don't have to go through that 30-minute orientation again for 12 more months. I think there's a ton of value in that. I guess you're starting to sell me a little bit on the idea if we did it with SiteForm, and SiteForm is now integrated with a few different platforms out there that can share the information. So Bob Kunz comes to my job site, enters in the information, it reaches back to SiteForm to see, well, does Bob have this AGC care video done? Yes, it does. It sends over the link into his profile within HammerTech for purposes of Shawmut. And then we know. And say, okay, Bob, you just got to talk to us about this job, but otherwise your profile is complete, go to work. That was pretty unique. That whole process took a long time. Unique, and not only better the industry, but the tradesperson. You're starting to sell me on the concept of could that idea exist on a higher level, whereas maybe there's a unique platform that, I don't know, that a sub enters their information on a pre-qualification, but it's information that they're willing to share with the industry as a whole, and that could be shared, I don't know.
Yeah, make their lives easier. I'll give you kind of a micro example, and then I'm going to make a statement. The micro example is 5 years ago in our business, somebody would come to a Lee Kennedy, just stick with Lee Kennedy. They'd come to a Lee Kennedy job, and they would fill out a PV plan, our version of a pre-task plan. And literally, it was...
What's PV?
Plan, execute, verify, and improve. Continuous improvement.
Oh,
cycle.
PEVI.
PEVI.
Okay.
Yep. That's copyrighted, so you can't steal it.
No intention.
Actually, I think the copyright might be up.
I don't have any intention either.
Thanks. Very novel idea. It was the plan, do, check, act thing, and I can't use that. I had to put my own twist on it.
And there we go, right? There's an example of creating this unique reference, right?
That absolutely. Yeah. But people would go from site to site to site to site, and every foreman or superintendent or safety person from that trade partner would have to fill out a PV form, our version of it. Well, it turns out that trade partner does the same exact work on every single damn job that they come to, but yet we make them fill out this brand new PV plan. When now, if you fast forward 5 years, we have a library within each subcontractor where they have access to all the pre-task plans that have ever been done for their company, even a master level pre-task plan. So they have access to those. So they don't have to spend the time doing the administrative work that takes them out of the field. They can simply pull it, and now we're focusing on how that message gets delivered to the subs. That's where we really need to be. That's like that next step in the evolution. How does that information that the sub is generating get down to the tradesmen and women that are performing the work in a meaningful way that actually impacts their decision making? We're getting there. We're getting a step closer. The statement that I wanted to make was, hopefully everybody in this room and listening to this podcast understands that each general contractor has, I guess, the equivalent of an EMR or a factor with all of our tradespeople, right? Meaning, if if they put a price together for a certain product and they know they're going to X general contractor, they're multiplying that price by 1.1 or 1.05 or 1.2, depending on the level of administration that they're going, the level of either administration or BS that they're going to have to go through to get their work. I'd like to say that Lee Kennedy's is probably like a 0.7 because we're so efficient and awesome. You guys are probably above 1. But it's the same idea.
No bias.
There is a burden that's placed on our trade partners, and they will put a multiplier on their price to different general contractors based on the level of burden that they're going to withstand on that job. Because it's almost an unidentifiable thing, except they know they've lost money or time in the past, so they're going to include money or time to compensate for that.
So your
I
point.
did it again. I shocked you guys into silence.
We're waiting for the completion of the statement. Is that it?
End.
Mic drop? Done.
End.
Yeah, I think where there's this tension that there's no question there's a tension that exists between wanting to introduce new concepts, wanting to introduce a new approach to hopefully simplify things, right? And then that being viewed as a friction point for the subs, right? Which could result in a factor, as Jason talked about. But ultimately, we're trying to. There's this balance that exists between wanting to implement something, and I'll give you an example. We tried to implement saw stop for table saws on our job sites based on the risk of amputation. But it just became overwhelming. At every project we had it written into, it just became overwhelming, the amount of friction that we were receiving from the submarket. So we moved away from saw stop in favor of just making sure that equipment was being used by trained personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that potential factor, as Jason talked about, right?
Yeah. Listen, I'm guilty of it. I've done the latter's last program and some mandatory full-time glove or safety glasses, and you guys know how I feel about that stuff. But we backed off of a lot of that stuff, except when it's necessary. So I'll stop. Remind me to talk to you about that after. Eric Johnson from Zurich, are you listening?
So I think to the original question, took us off the rails there a little bit. Good discussion around competition, trade partner engagement.
It started out as technology, didn't it?
It did. That's what I'm trying to pull us back to now. And you talked about use of AI, brought in FactorLab. You put those two together, you got a winning product. Keep us posted on that. Bob, not just technology, but innovation. What do you see Dimio's doing, the industry's doing over the next 3, 6, 12 months that could move the needle?
Well, one of the things that we're looking at right now and moving forward with is trying to align our systems, our process to definable features of work. So if I look at the way that we're executing quality control programs, historically quality and safety really line up very well. There's really not much of a shadow that exists between the two programs, disciplines, if you will. So I've been thinking very deeply about this, and we're about to embark on a reconfiguration of the way that we have our data aligned and the way our information and resources are archived and filed for our teams. We have for many years assigned our subcontractors to division of work. So when we use predictive solutions, we assign them a CSI code, and we're still stuck in the 1 through 16. We haven't progressed. It's just a way to have better data alignment. And then also when we have incidents, we associate that incident with the division of work. So now I'm able to I can pull now that information from this division of work. What are we seeing from observation history, from an incident perspective? That starts to align now with definable features of work, because you're going by spec section, which associates with a CSI code. So that's what we're driving towards right now, is to really look at how we're organizing our written words, our programs, our observation, incident history. So ultimately, we can benefit from AI. We're doing this. We're executing this definable feature of work. What are the hazards associated with this, so that when we're executing the work on a QA/QC, we can automatically pull down the hazards associated with this work without having to create this unique JHA.
Yeah. Tying it all together is what you're doing.
Yeah.
How about robots? You guys using robots?
I think we've used a couple of robots to take some pictures and things like that on almost like a pilot project a couple of times, but off hours, but nothing significant. No. Drones,
Yeah,
a little bit of drone use.
Yep, drones, absolutely.
Power washing with drones. Saw it 2 weeks ago at a project out of state.
Stop it, you're lying.
The owner was using it. Yep.
They're
Yep.
window washing now with drones.
Yeah.
When we look
Wild.
when we look at some projects, I'll look at where the spigots are located. How are we going to window wash this? The plane of the building is sort of undulating, and then you come up with these window washing scenarios because they engineered out the roof anchors, right? So there are drones now
Yep.
that can get out there and wash windows.
It's wild. It's like a fire hose. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah,
And the drone's good size,
yeah.
but it's not as big as this table. So it's not that big. It's crazy.
Is it just spraying water at
It's
the window,
it's
or is it,
controlled by human?
is it
No, there's
No,
no
no,
friction.
no.
hitting the window?
There's no Miyagi.
Okay.
Son.
Is that-
yeah. No, but it works.
Spray
Power
water?
washing.
You
Yeah.
can
it's
go
pretty good.
fishing with drones now.
Yeah.
Yeah, why
Yeah,
not?
surf casting right up over the top.
Yeah.
Oh, you have infrared camera systems associated with the drones now. You can look for, exterior systems and the roofing systems for potential leaks. For example, it's amazing where that goes. But yeah, we've been looking at them for window washings. A couple of clients that we have are using them now for
Yeah.
window washing.
Really? Our one of our competitors, Gilbane, and it sounds very similar to what you might have beta tested. They're beta testing robots that are meant to chronicle the progress of work. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
robot comes out at night
Yep.
and walks up the stairs in each building.
Yeah.
And
Spot
and
the robot dog. Boston Dynamics.
not that version. It was a different
Okay.
company. They presented it down at the Zurich conference, or they talked about it. But they're starting to integrate safety into that, meaning they're programming it to look for certain hazards or conditions, whether it's housekeeping, and they've set parameters around it, meaning was this 2x4 lying on the floor in the same spot yesterday? And they'll identify that the area hasn't been cleaned up, or this is missing a toe board, or the netting has come down, or whatever those programmable things are. Now, that's not the human interaction side of it. It's conditions and not acts that it's looking at, but a lot of promise there to be able to integrate some of those technologies and identify safety as part of that.
I think AI is going to change the industry dramatically, probably in short order, but it's been talked about for pushing 10 years now. And when it was first presented to me, that was one of my early questions. Well, is this like another safety person that can identify and alert immediately? And the answer continues to be, to this day, no. So they're training these machines to look for certain things, to look at the data, and then report out on that data, which is about as far as I want technology and AI to go, quite frankly. But if they can get to a point where the machine, the camera, the robot sees that instantly, and then there's an alert notifying a human, that would be phenomenal. But technology's not there yet.
No.
Where it's in real time.
And the acceptance of that technology is not there yet. So that robot dog, we have an example of some accidents happening to those robots because it was looked at like it was Big Brother,
Alleged.
Big Sister. And quite honestly, in some cases it was used as, that
Sort of
eye in the
weaponizing
sky.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here comes the robot safety guy.
Well, you got
Let me drop my
surveillance.
spud wrench on him.
Well, you get surveillance cameras up all over the place now. Time-lapse photography. We've got, like you guys do, people walking through job sites with cameras on top of their head, taking 360-degree photos. Mainly for progress, but they can when you're taking progress, you can pick up on other things. I know none of us would use it for a disciplinary, procedure. For if somebody were caught, let's say unsafe condition. That's easier, right? You're not going to discipline somebody from having unsafe condition, but you're going to take action on it. And the sooner you know about that, the quicker you can eliminate the hazard. That's the good side of it. But pictures are being taken and have for decades on job sites.
Oh yeah.
So having the argument that I will say about having the robot dog, it's no different. It's just put a camera on this thing versus on you.
And now it's video, difference. Or it's taking a photo every second, or whatever whatever that cadence is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure we've all had a camera or a cell phone slapped out of our hands when we're taking a picture of some jackwagon doing something stupid. Like, what are you doing? I'm taking a picture of you doing something stupid.
Certainly
give me that camera.
Some interesting conversations about that. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think it really makes a difference how you use it. You got to be intentful about and define what that use is, so you can let the workforce understand that. Right? There's a tendency, there's a tendency, an immediate tendency to react to it in a disciplinary way, as Sean indicated. But it really has to be viewed more from I view it more from a learning perspective. Mm-hmm. How can we improve? Where's the training gap, especially around progress photos? You see a progress photo, and it's like, what action did you take after you took that photo?
Yeah. Incredible segue, if anybody's still hanging around onto this episode.
Unlikely.
But, there's a lot of technology out there, a lot of different, things happening in the world really, really fast. And we use a lot of it. We use a ton of it. Have for a long time, continue to look for improvement areas, whatever. Not that we took a step back, but we did in a way in real time doing this, taking a step back to what you just said, Bob, and changing up our disciplinary program, our safety commitment program, to include a lot more around coaching. We do this informally, but we're getting very prescriptive with it now, and it's in real time because we haven't even rolled it out to the company yet. But you have to have a disciplinary program. Every company has to have one. It's by law, OSHA requires it. So, but it doesn't.
Primarily because they don't enforce 5A2, right?
Yeah, correct. So what we're doing is taking a little bit more of a holistic viewpoint when we see things go wrong, because it's construction, so things go wrong every day. And how are we reacting to those things? And we had kind of like a first step, written verbal warning, written warning, removal for retraining, and we're looking at all of that and saying, where are the coaching opportunities here? And not that we're going to can't be stepped on repeatedly. You can't give a person 1 million outs, but how often is it done in construction anyway? Put your glasses back on, come around the corner, put your glasses back on, or in your case, put your hard hat back on, whatever it may be.
Put those pants back on, would you?
But and it does more often than not. In the case of Shawmut, remove the individual from the hazard, get with the employer. Let's document some retraining or something different has to occur, and then go back to work. So we've gotten a little bit more prescriptive as to what that needs to look like. So it has nothing to do with technology, has nothing to do with AI, but how do we embrace the workforce a little bit more when we all make mistakes every day, all of us, right? And so people are going to make mistakes. So how do we react to that in a more consistent fashion company-wide? That's one thing that we're trying to really look at. And the other one is, I have this example. We got OSHA called on us last year for people feeling that they were being exposed to lead. Probably shouldn't tell you that, but I just did. So hopefully there's not too many people listening.
It was me that called.
And we don't know who called, but he said, "Geez, why are they calling OSHA? We have dedicated safety on site. We've got a safety hotline. if you have a concern, let us know. But they called OSHA, so did some investigation. Damn near everybody on the job site read or had a chance to read and reviewed and signed off physically on the hazardous materials report for the site. There was multiple safety plans generated for work in and around lead, a lot of negative exposure assessments done to make sure that we have the right controls in place. So did everything, in my opinion, the right way. But it struck me that one or a few people didn't feel like they were informed enough. So this goes to the point of an engaged workforce. How clear are we being with the tasks that need to be done, the controls being put in place, so you can have AI generate a pre-task plan, but how much of a fingerprint do the people doing the work have in that? And that's just engagement. And I think historically we've gotten good about saying we need to have pre-task plans, we need to identify the high-risk work. More often than not, it's probably written from a safety person or a project manager or an estimator or a principal, and it's given to the trades and saying, read this, sign off, and go to work. And that has to change. That has to change. People have to have that opportunity, and I think this lead example that was in real time for me over the last 8 months to say we need to do better about communicating to the people doing the work. We need to make sure that they're at the table, they can put their stamp on the plan, ask questions, lay out their concerns, and make sure that they are truly bought into it. I don't think it's done enough in the industry, and I will say at Shawmut we're trying to make improvements there because it hasn't been consistently done good enough here.
I'm going to start from where your question was about discipline. I would say very hard line myself when I first got in the industry. I gave you an orientation 30 minutes ago. We had some interactions to clarify any misunderstandings, and here you are out here performing the work in a manner that's not consistent with that information that we gave you, right? Or consistent with the JHA that your company put together. It was around 2015 when I took the CM Lean training through the AGC of America program that it just dawned on me that it's not about assigning blame, but it's really about trying to understand more deeply about the system flaws that exist. And I think that sort of addresses what you're talking about, Sean. It's like, what can we fix in the system to improve the understanding that the worker has about the environment they're in, right? Or about the supply chain that supports the equipment and tools and PPE that the worker has available for them, right? So I agree that it shouldn't be a blame game, but we should really be taking a moment to opportunity to speak to that worker about where the system flaws are, right? Ultimately, there's a small fraction of people that just are doing it in a specific way at their own level of personal risk. The heck with the way that you've assigned risk on this job, they're just going to do it that way. And it's not consistent with the community's level of risk. But to get to that deeper level of understanding and communication is really fundamentally where we need to be.
Well, I think we all walk around with a number that most incidents come from human decisions. In call it 90%, some may say 95% of negative outcomes are because of a human decision. But Bobby, you hit the nail on the head there. What's behind that human decision? Why was that decision made? And there are many, many more factors that I think in the safety community, industry agnostic, hasn't looked that deeply. Historically, hasn't looked that deep. And now is an opportunity to do just that. So this decision was made that led to that result that we don't like. Before that decision was made, why did you make that decision? And there's a few people out there that might consciously make that decision the way they want and do it repeatedly over and over again. For the vast majority of people don't, because they know what the outcome is, but they make that decision based on the environment in which they're in. So how do you change that environment a little bit? How do you look at your programs a little bit deeper to make sure that they can make the right decision?
A tough subject. You're hitting the nail on the head, though.
That's a
I
secret
look at
part of
the-
the secret sauce right there, right?
Well, I look at the question a little bit differently when you say that, they made a decision that led to something. The older I've gotten and the more experience that I've had in this industry, it's why were they allowed to make that decision? Most of the time, it comes down to a culture, either on a job site or within that company. And I think we know that. We see it very clearly. And that's a really tough thing to change unless it's within your own firm or on your own projects.
Yep.
For those of you listening, that's Bob's cell phone that he didn't put on mute. How rude.
Apologize, viewers.
I don't know that this is a human nature thing, right?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're also in an environment where some people don't have a choice on where they work. As funny as that sounds, some people, especially in certain environments, certain areas of the country, do not necessarily have a choice on which company they work for or which company they're going to.
Mm-hmm.
And that might sound funny to some of the listeners out there, but in certain environments, like
It's deadly.
Our region.
Deadly serious. I mean,
Yeah.
I just interviewed Rena Harrington about her son Justin's death and the circumstances surrounding that. I mean, small employer, had some concerns and wasn't really able to voice those concerns. And
yeah, you are
Yeah.
either walking into or working within an environment that you don't necessarily have control over culturally.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I will
yeah,
tell you,
yeah.
we to both of your points, we have watched this industry change, and I'm just talking about the safety side of the industry. We've watched it change from a discipline-based approach or that cop mentality to coaching and support. We've all seen it, and we're in the middle of it now, and it's encouraging. We understand that what we do is about the tradespeople. It's not about the numbers behind it. It's about that person. And not to make this corny, we have had a serious mind shift in this industry, and I love it.
And just look at the working mind. I mean, just with the what we built into the universal orientation that we were talking about earlier, the CARE program, with a significant portion of that dedicated to mental health and substance use and suicide prevention awareness. There's that aspect, like what's affecting the critical decision making at the point of work, right? And I think we have to acknowledge that there are certain system issues that occur. It could be leadership at the crew level, could be the supply chain within the company, but there's also an aspect about the wellness within the industry as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. So we've been at this podcast for a little bit here, so I think our viewership is about done. But if anybody's on, maybe I can attempt a recap of today's.
Viewership's done.
Well, for the you're done. All right. So today we talked first and foremost, viewers. If you're not in the AGC Care orientation program, sign up and talk to any one of us if you have any questions about that. But that's first and foremost, because that empowers the tradesperson with the ability and the knowledge that to understand what's expected of them and what they can expect on the jobs they go to. Because in Eastern Massachusetts and a good portion of New England, they should have the same expectations of any job they go to.
Agree.
Different parts of the country, different
we all agree on
areas, but that's what's expected here. So the CARE program helps us drive that. And to Bob's last point around mental health and what's inside the hard hat, as Turner describes, is absolutely a key component there. We talked in the middle for a long time around kind of differences between firms, software and information exchange. We didn't get to any resolution there.
None.
But what we did agree on is CARE program, trade person empowerment, and what betters the industry. And kind of what we wrapped with at the end is not only going from the disciplinary program of catch you, now you're gone, to now coaching and real engagement around the folks that need to work on our sites. How do they get their fingerprints onto the plans early, and using AI could be an awesome way to do that, where the plan is generated but it's drafted, and then they can sit down and have that conversation to make sure that all their questions, their concerns are answered, and there needs to be a resource that is a real competent person, somebody that really understands the work, not just because their company says they're the competent person, but they've got real experience, real training, real expertise in the safe delivery of that task.
In the environment that it's performed in.
100%.
Yeah.
That's right. So, Bob, you're new to the industry. You sit down with us to talk about the tasks we're going to do today, and you're like, geez, I don't know. Or you don't, I can tell that you don't know, or you're afraid to ask the question, and I'm the competent person. Say, Bob, you don't look really confident with this. What are your concerns? If we could ever get to that point, this industry would skyrocket. It would be amazing. And, there'd be a ton of people, running towards our industry to work here. And we'd be delivering product after product. So we have work to do. And I think that's where there is no competition. It's how do we better the industry? And in those ways, these conversations to me, with alignment, make a big difference. Sharing the information, I don't know, debatable.
Debatable. Nice recap, man.
Good.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Enjoyed it.
All right, till next time.